Hi people, it's me again, of course, as always, under as usual, Moino Ravenberg. This video is related to the article labeled How to Use Astrology to Observe and Predict the Weather. And I'm going to be more detailed this time as additional content to the content already in that article, so including the videos. Now, priorly, I've already said, or aforementionedly, in that article, I already said that generally speaking, the 11th house deals with the weather, and um, and the ruler of the 11th house cusp. In this case here, it's Cancer. It's currently June the 21st, 2025, Saturday for me. And Yeah, the reason you're seeing so much Cancer influences, or by default just Cancer ruling, is because summer has officially begun in my location, so Riga, Latvia, just Latvia overall. Summer has begun. We're in the first phase of summer. Every season has three phases. Summer will be ruled by default rulers, so the moon, the sun, and Mercury. Specifically, the zodiac signs Cancer, Leo, and Virgo. So the middle of summer, that's why people crave the middle of summer, because it will be at its most pleasantest in terms of warmth. So not too hot, not too cold, just perfect. Just hits that feel right, which is when Leo rules, unsurprisingly, obviously, because it's the sun. So you can expect similar weather like you see on a Sunday in general. It's almost nice and perfectly quiet, and the weather is like well balanced and blah blah blah. So that's why you're seeing Cancer ruling. You're seeing a bunch of astrological bodies, so asteroids and planets, including the part of fortune, be in or near the 11th house and all in Cancer. Um, so this applies to, by default, the majority of Europe or the rest of the first world, with notable differences here and there. In some places, summer hasn't hit yet, or summer is already in full swing, and so on and so forth. Anyways, what I wanted to emphasize is that in my earlier content, I had said in general that, hey, you just keep track of the ruler of the house, the 11th house, and the planets in it in general. And that gives you just that, a general idea on what to expect. In the beginning of summer, since you're seeing so many things in in Cancer, sorry, then that means that the probability of rain is very evident in my location. For example, rain, rain, rain. A lot of darkness, raininess, moistureness, and so on and so forth. A lot of wetness in the air. And now, but it is more complicated than that, and that's where this video enters the fray or comes into play. In order to be as detailed as possible, it's impractical in general, so I don't recommend it, but you need to go over every little thing and all the aspects relating to it, as well as the day, the general ruler of the day, planetary ruler of the day. So today it's Saturn, and it just goes on like that. So you would technically, potentially also have to take Saturn, which is currently in Aries, into account, but you don't have to go that far. As an addition, what I would like to add is that the moon also needs to be taken into account. I've already discussed in prior content how important the moon is, lunar phases and movements of the moon, to the point where when it comes to the occult, throughout a bunch of grimoires and or magical workbooks, you'll see that you need to observe the movements of the moon and so on and so forth, yada, yada, yada. I've already said that in the past. Now, for example, I'm going to compare it and give you guys like real life examples, comparing it to the weather forecast. The moon here, for example, is in Taurus and it's in the ninth house, so Sagittarius's house, and it's aspected, it's sextile, everything here from the sun all the way to Jupiter. Yeah, and including the 11th house cusp. Now, you'll see what that means. Keep in mind, just to keep things as simple as possible, the moon is afflicted because it's in weather-wise, it's in Taurus, so it's in an earth sign. The moon by default is strong in water signs and weak in earth signs, and the house that it's in, it's neutral. It's a fire sign, so it's more neutral. The zodiac sign in general matters, I want to say, at least a bit more than the ruler of the house it's in during these kind of affairs. So weather measuring, and you'll see for yourself. Because generally speaking, you would say, hey, based on the fact that the moon isn't thingy, generally speaking, the moon is afflicted. You would expect if the moon plays a role, with its aspects, then you would say that it's not going to be heavily rainy or anything like that today. Couple that with the fact that the ruler of today is again Saturn day, and Saturn isn't exactly known for its wetness. Then you'll see for yourself today. See for yourself here what the weather forecast is in general. There is a chance of rain, precipitation, 1 millimeter, but it says overall probability is 60% in the morning time. So it's currently 11:27 for me a.m. Um, you're seeing here for yourself, like sunny, etc. Partly sunny at least, no low chance of rain. In the afternoon, you're seeing here a high. Is it a high chance of rain? Yeah, an above average level of rain, chance of it raining. And in the evening, you're seeing here that it's quiet as well as overnight, it being quiet. So yeah, you see it play out here. It's because the moon isn't exactly at its strongest. Obviously, there are many other factors that need to be taken into consideration to be literally as perfectly detailedly as possible. But like I said, that is pretty much impractical. It's quite impractical. You just want to have a general outline, but the moon is a noteworthy addition to the equation. And let's just compare it to, for example, here. Um, Here you see the moon being in Capricorn's house, quite weak, but it's in Gemini. Yeah, it's neutral in Gemini. And in terms of aspect, it's sextile the pot of fortune. Um, and it, and yeah, that's it. Almost sextile Mercury, but it's not. And for the rest, a semi-sextile with the Sun and with Jupiter, as well as with the 11th house cusp. So yeah, and coupled with the fact that it's a Monday, so by default you would say that hey, the probability of rain is higher, but since the moon is in Gemini, there also has to be a lot of wind or more wind, so than is the case by default. Um, but still not buckets of rain, considering the fact that it's in the 10th house, so Capricorn's house. So yeah, June the 23rd, Monday. See for yourself here in general today. Wind gust 44 kilometers an hour, quite heavy. The default currently is around the 30s, so you can see for yourself that it's above average and minimal precipitation and probability is 44%. Morning here, see, completely dry, nothing worth mentioning. Afternoon, also dry, nothing worth mentioning, etc., etc. And throughout it, high level of wind stays present, and it just goes on like that. Evening, nothing really, really nothing, nothing worth mentioning. And then overnight, same thing, nothing worth mentioning. Yeah, see for yourself here. See my point? Now, these are the general measurements for being as detailed as possible. And it just goes on like that. Obviously, keep in mind that this is, even with it being so detailed, ironically, and at the same time, so simultaneously, it is still, it is still a generalization in the sense that, for example, when the moon enters Cancer, like here, for example, next week, Wednesday or coming Wednesday, the moon will be in Cancer. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to rain a lot or anything like that, etc. There are other factors that need to be taken into account, such as all the aspects from the 11th house cusp and or any planets and or celestial bodies in it to the rest of all the other planets and or celestial bodies. And not to mention, again, the ruler of the day. You can expect the higher chances when, for example, the moon rules, so Mondays, or Mars rules, so Tuesdays, or the opposite, depending on other detailed conditions and circumstances. Also, when Jupiter rules, if Jupiter is in a water sign, such as now, such as Cancer, and it just goes on. And minimal rain, you'll have that by default when the Sun rules or Saturn rules, so Sundays and Saturdays and Wednesdays, such as in this example or in this case. So yeah, that's simply something to keep in mind. But it does add a lot to the equation in terms of wanting to be more detailed. If you want to know exactly how much rain you can expect, and you want to come close to being as, so to speak, accurately as possible. That's all.